I'm going to call a special board meeting of the LaBrae Board of Education order. Treasurer, please call the roll. Oh, yeah.
Mr. Sewell?
Here.
Mr. Gibson?
Here.
Mr. Gamlin?
Here.
Mrs. Shutt? Here. And Mrs. Ansell? Here.
All right, would you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, get right into the agenda items.
Okay. First item we have is because our treasurer is at the meeting for Matthews Board of Education. We need to have a recommendation that the board appoint Mrs. Ansell as the treasurer pro temp for the purpose of recording the minutes for the February 25th, 2026 special meeting per revised code 3313.23.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Shutt, second by Mr. Gamlin. Any discussion? Karen, we did appreciate you stepping in.
Yes.
Thank you. Treasurer, please call the roll.
Mrs. Shutt?
Yes.
Mr. Gamlin?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Mrs. Ansell? Yes. Mr. Sewell?
Yes, motion carries 5-0.
Okay, next item on the agenda is a recommendation that the Board of Education approve the employment of Julian Davis as a substitute teacher on an as-needed basis at the substitute teacher per diem rate effective February 17th, 2026.
So moved. No,
Go ahead.
so moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gamlin, second by Mr. Gibson. Any discussion? You all saw his resume, his credentials in the folder. So he's kind of stepping in to help us out. So,
He's going to help out with Mrs. Gertang.
Just banned, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's, when I was looking at the resume, that's what I gathered.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's going to.
Yeah, he just finished up at Fitch, and luckily, as we realized, her absence was going to be a little more extended. Mrs. Ott had asked to maybe try to find a music person because it's
Sure.
hard. So she
Sure.
was able to locate one. A lot of kudos to her for that.
Yeah, we're lucky to be able to find
Yeah.
somebody with some music background.
The
That's good.
kids seem to like him too.
Yeah,
That's
so
the
far so good.
feedback I'm
Positive.
getting,
Yeah,
too.
and he's also going to attend. We're going to pay him to attend the senior band trip too,
Oh, good.
because we needed
We
that.
need the
Extra, we
extra
needed that extra
chaperone.
chaperone, and he's got his background checks, so we're good to go
Well,
there.
that'll help with the guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right. Treasurer, please call the roll.
Mr. Gamlin?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shutt?
Yes.
Mrs. Ansell? Yes. And Mr. Sewell?
Yes, motion carries 5-0.
Next item on the agenda is a recommendation that the board approve the employment of Anthony J. Calderon as superintendent of schools as a rehire administrator under a limited administrative contract effective March 3rd, 26th through July 31st of 2029.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Gibson, second by Mrs. Ansell. Any discussion?
Yeah, can you just tell me in your own words, Rusty, what the new contract, what's different?
New contract is his wages have been reduced, plus a lot of the extra benefits were taken out. As you can see, he sent us the red line copy, the changes in there. So the biggest thing for us is the cost savings with salary and benefits saves us over the term of the thing about $70,000
Over the next 3
over
years?
3 years.
Actually, that final version is a little over 90.
90,000.
Oh, that's right.
Based
I
on the
forgot.
supplemental
That was
days.
the other one. I forgot about the supplement. Yeah, because he's not gonna have the extra days, which is quite a bit, and benefits reduced. Plus, he gave up his cell phone stipend, which isn't a lot, but still.
Will we be able to reach
Yeah.
Mr. Calderon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not gonna be an
it's not,
issue.
the school's not paying for it. He's still
Yeah.
got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're not changing that. The main thing is to remember, we could have kept him at 3 years. I mean, he had a contract for 3, and this means he can take advantage of the STR system as it is. By doing that, benefits his family, plus it benefits us because we can save the extra. He was going to stay for 3 years or do this retire, rehire, and it's really to the board's benefit to go ahead because we weren't looking for a new super at this time. In 3 years, we were going to have to do it anyway. So we're kind of helping each other out, and I think it's going to benefit him. If you feel he's doing a good job, then that's why I think we recommend. After Karen and I did it for the finance stuff, we think, as long as we think he's doing a good job, there's no reason why not to.
I did, kind of take note of some of the public participation last meeting. And I was sort of surprised to hear some of the things I did, but one of them was that there was a supposition that this was kind of a thing that was set into motion when we asked the principal of the elementary school to retire, rehire, or when that came to pass. And what he intimated was that we approached her and asked her if she'd be willing to do this. And I want to know what the story is.
You as a board member didn't.
No.
I came to you. I went to her and asked her if she would be interested in that because she has, at that point, had reached full retirement side and she didn't want to quit working.
Okay, but she
So-
didn't come to you and said,
Correct.
I
No,
want to
no,
retire.
I went to her. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Yeah,
Because I think it boiled down to, if you think someone's still effective and the answer to that question is yes, and they've done a great job for you and you believe they have them, why wouldn't we as a district want to do things to benefit our employees when it's at no cost to us and it results in a cost savings? And
Okay.
so that's why I approached her on that.
So it was about the cost, it was about the cost savings, and she she hadn't approached you and said, I want to retire.
No.
Okay.
She did not approach me and say, hey, I want to do this. I asked her if she would be interested in that because it was the same year that SDRS had changed retirement systems twice. And so she basically had reached a level where she had reached full retirement and was not going to see a reduced benefit. And that's when those changes were happening with SDRS, one had happened in November, and then the second one happened in the spring. It was those conversations that, hey, would you be interested in that? And then I said I could go to the board and see if they'd be willing to do it. And then remember, we met an executive
Right.
and had that conversation
Okay.
about whether or not the board would entertain it.
Right.
Yep.
But this is a kind of a new thing with the board doing this. Like, this isn't something we've done. Have you
yeah,
done this
we've done
before?
it in the past when it's to our benefit. If we feel that keeping that person is better for us, and
Sure.
we know they're going to keep working, do we want to keep them or let them go somewhere else? Because a lot of the time they will make plain that I'm going to keep working, so I can keep working for you, or I'll go somewhere else. And we've had it. We've turned them down. We've had some we didn't feel at that time we didn't want to renew their contract. We had other principals that do that.
Sure.
We just said it wasn't a good fit for us. It was time for them to go so we could move on. And so it's not set in stone. It's not a policy. We look at what's best for us at the time.
We currently.
Case by case.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
we had, when we lost a principal in 2011, late in August, we hired a retired superintendent to be our principal on a temporary basis for a couple of years as a stepping stone, to get to a point where we could get, as a brand new superintendent under my feet, new in the job. And then once we had a couple of years of that veteran leadership helping me, then it was a matter of, okay, we can search for a permanent successor. And then we have also in the classified ranks, we have retired people that are currently working with us as well that had worked previously at LaBrae. The guy we hired in 2011 did not work here previously. He had been in other districts.
So when we do this kind of thing, we end up with a sort of a savings that we hadn't been planning on, or, extra monies. What is the typical plan with that? Does that get spent on something does that go to a wish list?
It doesn't go to a special fund. It just stays inside our treasurer.
Could it?
Yeah.
It's
It's
like
general fund money.
It's general fund.
It's
money,
general
so-
fund money.
It's payroll, it's general
Yeah.
fund money.
Okay.
And one of the concerns, just to speak to that, there's no plan to say, what do we do with the savings? The plan is to say,
Spend it.
if you can be more efficient with your dollars and save money, then ultimately it stays in the general fund and you're more solvent moving forward. So for example, recently I shared with you guys the link to the commissioners meeting that we had with treasurers and superintendents. And when you have the county commissioners
So on TV.
making decisions that will possibly double the 2.5% homeowner credit, as well as considering doubling the homestead credit, our district could stand to lose $167,000. Now, having some private conversations with a couple of the commissioners, I get a sentiment of what they might do or might not do. So we might not lose all of that, as one of those credits might take a place and the other one not. But it's in foresight of looking at that where you say, okay, if we're saving money in some of these areas, then if we see some of our local revenue get cut, we're in a better position. And that's one of the reasons, for example, when I came back from that meeting, I actually had a conversation with Mr. Sewell, and I said, I think we can clean this contract up a little bit better because of what I might see as further cuts coming. And I just felt like that would be a good thing to do, to make sure that, we were being a little more fiscally prudent.
And with the, when we're doing the budgeting, Brad does the, treasurer's report and he does the budgeting stuff. He has to take into consideration for that. And you always go for a 5-year period, even though the state pays us their budget 2 years, which I always thought was crazy. Why do you make us do 5 and you only do 2? How do we project out? So any savings we do, but you always got to anticipate there's going to be cost of inflation. There's going to be new teachers' contracts, certified contracts, bus pushers, everything's going to be going up. We know that. So it's not like we have that savings that we just put it back, well, we can just spend that on something. No, we still got to be prudent about how we spend it. It just gives you some more flexibility. Maybe we can use some of this here, whatever benefits our students. That's what we got to, intensify and, count on and try to look at that. And,
So is that
we try to be more prudent with our funds.
That's a board decision, though, what happens with that extra money?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if we come up with a project, we still have to vote it. It's not,
Right,
it's
so,
not decided.
Any of our money-
Any savings
Any money
is still
we
in
have,
our,
it's a board decision.
in our pot, I
right,
guess you could say.
so am I correct in saying, yes, this is a little bit of a windfall because of this decision?
Yeah,
A windfall.
I mean, like, it's money we weren't planning on,
yes,
not spending.
yeah.
Over the next
Well, it's
year.
money
It's like
that
it's
likely
money
would have been spent
Would have been
based
spent.
on the next 3 years of my contract.
Right.
Yes.
So now it's not.
Now it's not.
So, I'm just saying, is there something that we as a board think that it would be great to
Spend it on,
spend it on?
right now.
I mean, because we've
Right
done
now-
other creative spending here since I've been here. We've
Mhm.
done other projects that
Yeah.
were
Well,
certainly
right
not
now,
like
I think our
utilities
biggest
and so forth.
consideration would be, what are they gonna do about the property tax?
Yeah.
Because that's something you gotta keep in the back of your mind. If they take that away, reduce it from the schools, unless the state does something, we could still be on the hook for that. I mean, so,
Right, so
Well-
being prudent with it, but
yeah,
I'm just saying,
If I hear you, and I don't mean to cut you off, but just what I hear you saying is when you talk about projects, we have other funds available for quote unquote projects. So for example, as we talked about what we might do with our event entrance, that would not come out of the general fund.
got it,
So when we do something like that, when we look at replacing that brick and possibly doing some dyed concrete and
Yes.
phasing in over 2 or 3
Mhm.
years that work, that will come from permanent improvement funds. That's a
Okay.
facility project fund. So that's more of a budgeting process and a
Right.
planning process.
right,
Our operations in terms of the general fund and paying for utilities, employees, collective bargaining agreements, those are generally the things that you're mindful of moving forward before you put any special burden on those funds that are outside of our daily
okay,
operations.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
any other questions? Treasurer, please call the roll.
Mr. Gibson,
Yes.
Mrs. Ansell, yes. Mr. Gamlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Shutt,
yes,
Mr. Sewell.
Yes, motion carries 5-0.
And I want to thank you for that vote and your vote of confidence, so thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is a recommendation that the Board of Education approve the retirement resignation of Anthony J. Calderon as superintendent of schools effective March 1st, 2026.
You know that'll be for one day and then he'll be allowed.
Yep, I have to sit out one day, March 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Ansell, second by Mr. Gibson. Any discussion?
all right, do you have any big plans for the retirement party, or
No,
are we invited,
I
or?
need to change my oil and rotate my tires on my car. So I'll probably be doing that on my day off.
Sounds like a good plan.
Okay.
All right, treasurer, please call the roll.
Mrs. Ansel, yes. Mr. Gibson,
Yes.
Mr. Gamblin,
Yes.
Mrs. Shutt,
Yes.
Mr. Sewell.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Continuing agenda items, the concerns of the board, Mr. Gibson.
I don't have anything right now.
Okay. Mr. Gamlin,
Nope, nothing at this time.
Mrs. Shutt.
I just wanted to go over the email that we got back from
Yes.
our attorneys, with regard to the question of discussion and
Right.
so forth. So what I gleaned from that is, in a perfect world, if I wanted to have discussion in that moment, after we had nominated several people for president, vice president, I could have simply said, would like to make a motion to discuss.
That's kind of what I got out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and then also, the other thing I got out of it was that if we wanted to change policy, we could talk about that. That, in other words,
Yes.
when we have nominations for these positions, that the policy could be that we have open discussion at that time.
Mhm. Yeah.
So we have to just make a motion to do that?
Well, I think what we would need to
do.
do is first identify the policy. If there's an intent to want to change the policy, we could do that. I think it first starts with the discussion of what you guys want to do as a board. I was actually, I apologize that I didn't catch that one email in my spam. And when I didn't see his, then I reached out to a different staff attorney at OSBA.
Oh, okay.
And so that's where that second email came
Okay.
from. And then I'm like, well, how did I miss it? And then I found out my spam.
Well,
So, we didn't violate any procedures with regards to what we did, but as they indicated in that email,
You
it's
can
really
change.
at the will of the board how you want to handle that. If you want to, say, hey, have a discussion, how do we want to handle discussion prior to voting? And if we want to put it into policy, then we would probably look at our bylaws, which are the first level, the 0, whatever, 100s, and we find the right of policy to approach, and then we would insert something in the policy.
And then you would have OS or Neola look at it to make sure it
okay, I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
qualifies or
Yeah,
becomes
I
legal.
think that makes a
Yeah,
lot of
you don't-
sense.
We don't want to, like they said, you can adjust Robert's rules kind of.
Yeah.
So we don't violate it.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, yeah, we'd have to get it approved by legal.
Now, I'm going to be meeting with our policy representative from Neola here later this spring, I think in the month of March. So, if you guys want to discuss that, if you want me to move forward and look at that, I can always send you I'll look at the policy, the
Okay,
bylaw
that'd be great.
copies, send them to you and we can discuss
Yeah, I
that.
think before we make a motion, do that so we can find out where we have to go and how we have to do that.
Okay.
That sounds
That would
really
be
good.
helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else?
Oh, no, that's it for now.
Karen, you have anything? I just have a couple items. Went over the evaluations with Brad and AJ, went through and highlighted what everybody had said. And just a couple notions I want to bring up because some of them, I guess, affected me. It says decisions are heavily influenced by the superintendent, which is true, but you got to remember the school is a business and he is kind of the president or CEO of our business. We are the board of directors. He's in charge of operations. Our biggest thing is take care of the students, number one, and then our biggest other is hiring and the super and the treasurer. Hopefully they're doing what we do, following our set policies. He presents us motions for the operations of the school. Then we vote either yes or no. He gives us the agenda, and we can call him at any time. You don't have to wait. I don't have to call him. You guys can do that on your own. Call, text, come and stop and visit. But each one of us has one vote. That's it. Nobody has super vote or anything like that. And, we can have a conversation too. I don't set the agenda, but any of us can ask to have something put on the agenda before. Let AJ know, he'll put it on and we can discuss it and then vote on it. So I just want to make sure everybody's new with that. The other was kind of collaboration with me. I may have more contact with AJ. Part of it is, as president, I feel that's part of my job. I probably work 5 to 10 hours a week on that. And I'll call AJ every couple of days part of it is, you know, I'm the spokesman of the board, so I want to know what's going on. And he'll call me if something pops up, if he hears a rumor or something, I will do the same. I mean, I did that even before I was president. I would stop in and see the superintendent just to find out, you know, I may hear rumors because I spend a lot of time out in the community. Luckily, my job, I can take off when I want, more or less. So I can stop in and visit, or I attend a lot of the events outside, you know, after school, sporting events, whatever, assemblies during the school. Luckily, I can do that, you know, and I still have seven grandkids still in school. So I meet a lot of people at the events or just out there, and they've known me for years. You know, I've known their kids, known the students, and so I guess I'm more familiar. You know, I guess maybe other presidents don't do that, but I'm not doing it only as a president. I'm doing it as a concerned citizen. I hear a rumor, something's going on, or somebody says, hey, you know, can you check in on us? I'll call AJ and verify it. So, and if it's something to do with finance, I'll call Brad. I used to do that with, our other supers, and I did it a lot with Carol Jones. Carol taught me a lot about school finance because that is not an easy subject. You know, I've had 50 years of experience in accounting, running a couple of businesses, and that's a different finance than public. School finance is really difficult to do, and I spent a lot of time with Carol, and I spent a lot of time with Brad. So, you know, do I collaborate? No, but I do try to be aware of what's going on. I don't suggest to him, you need to do this. That's his decision. He runs the school, you know, the operations. He gives us suggestions on what will be more efficient for the school and for the students. You know, I don't say we got to buy this set of books or this study guide. That's their decision. That's why we hire a super and a treasurer to do that. So, you know, just be aware. Anybody can contact him or Brad at any time. You got his cell phone number, you got his email. I contacted him at night when I hear something. Even, you know, people rumor when school's getting closed and stuff like that, I'll call him. If you guys decided anything, he'll answer either by text or by phone. So never be afraid to reach out. He's always there.
I just want to interject. I want to support that as well. I talk to him numerous times in a month. I run a physician's office. A lot of the patients in this community, and they know I'm a school board member. I do the same thing he does and do student events and stuff. And I ask him, or I'll ask Rusty, hey, do you know anything that's going on? You know, I had a couple issues with some accounting and questions on some of the accounts. I call Brad at least once a month, maybe twice if something shows up when I look for outliers on the reports. I've never been turned away or not responded to in the same day. Either a text or, hey, I'm busy, I'm in a meeting, I'll call you later. I'm okay with all of that. I hear a lot of rumors just like he does, and I just want to know the facts. And when I'm out and about at football games and stuff,
Yeah, you'll hear a lot.
you'll hear a
More
lot
you're
that's
out
not
there.
true. I mean, and even with discussing his contract, I was approached pretty heavily once it hit the paper.
Yeah.
And the biggest stumbling block and the misinformation is we didn't extend his contract. His contract was July 2029.
Right.
All we changed was how we were paying him. We did not extend him. It's a retire-rehire, and everybody just focuses on that. We did not extend Mr. Calderon's contract. He's done on July 2029. So where Maggie Kowalch, she was a brand new contract for retire-rehire, for what she could bring and what she's done for the kids down there. His contract is done July 2029, and I spent probably 4 days explaining that to at least 20 people in this community.
And a lot of them, they hear only the parts of it.
What
and that's why
social
I
media
mentioned-
tells them,
Right.
what social media took and blew up, and public speaking and things like that, there were a lot of misstatements there, and truth doesn't always get out. And before I even respond on things that are iffy, my kids are, although far away, are all on that social media, and everything that happens with their peers and whatnot and their kids, I bring that back and ask them, or I'll go to Rusty first. Hey, you hear anything on this before I go up to bother them? I've never not had an open door policy as a board member and even as a parent. So
I want to be able to interject if you'll permit me. Sure.
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts too.
Because I wanted to speak to the workings, and I've had this conversation with Mr. Sewell in the past, not since we've had board changeover. Maybe the last one was, 4 or 5 years ago. And the question is, if you need me to change some communication techniques, let me know. Because generally what happens with the Board of Education, when you read your bylaws, the bylaws say the president is the voice of the board.
Absolutely.
That's a rule. Does not mean that other board members can't speak to the media, but the bylaw will actually express that if you do, whether it's the public or the media, that you're speaking as an individual and not as the board, because
Right.
the role of the president is to be the spokesperson, the lone spokesperson for the board. That also is delegated to me as a superintendent. And so a lot of communication will happen between the superintendent and the board president, or the treasurer and the board president, as that go-between, if you will, before the rest of the board. And then sometimes what you'll hopefully have noticed about my communication style is that I like to make you aware. I don't want you to have any surprises. So a lot of what I will do is when things happen, I might email you, and then I'll text you and say, check your email.
That's
So-
me. I forget to check mine.
Because I want to make sure that on certain things, rather than a periodic memo you might get from me, you're all hearing the same thing at the same time. One of the first things I learned as a new superintendent when I was dealing with some issues was I was one night remembering calling all 5 board members individually, and I'm like, that just wasn't very efficient. And so, and with the council of mentors, they talk to superintendents about doing what they call board prep. How do you keep your board informed? How do you prep for meetings, communication, and things of that nature? And so that's always open for discussion. But what we always have to be careful of is that the role of the board is to legislate. It's to make the rules. And the two most important decisions any Board of Education will make is to hire a treasurer and a superintendent. Because those are the people in the day-to-day management under the guidelines of the rules that the board makes. And so how we communicate between board and superintendent, that's always a critical thing. And so I will say the same thing to you guys in that I am willing to adjust and communicate accordingly. I just don't want it to be something that makes us less efficient, because there's a lot of day-to-day responsibility, and that has changed over the times. That is, we're always asked to do more with less. That's just kind of a standard operating procedure anymore. And, we'll really see that if we abolish property taxes in the state of Ohio.
Yes.
But I just share that with you because as a general rule, I remember when I did get hired, the one general directive that I was given was, we don't want to run the district. That's your job. And that was kind of what was told to me at the time. So, and I have no problem with someone giving me the reins and then making that communication. And so a lot of times before I do anything that I think might be, something that is, outside of the wishes of the board, I don't want to act on that first. And I'll give you the perfect example. When we had a chance to hire a treasurer, Mr. Sewell, the board president, had told me early on in my tenure, when we have an opportunity, we need to explore shared services. And I think we can do it in the area of fiscal services. And so during the course of my time at LaBrae, one of the things that I did was tried to make sure that our central office was as efficient and skilled as possible, and that we use technology to support our services in this office so that when the time presented itself, we would be able to share. And we were undergoing the recruitment process for a new treasurer. And then somebody gave us a name and said, this person might be interested in sharing if that's still something you want to do. My response was, call the board president. Do you want me to contact this person and ask them to apply? The answer was yes. And so that's kind of how that would work. And then I go back to the rest of the board and said, here's the candidates. Here's how this came to be.
Yeah.
And this is a person we're going to include in this process. So, that would be a big decision. And I would never make that big decision on my own without consulting the leader of the board, which is how that works. I didn't go to the entire board. I went to the board president and then we worked through that. So if there's something we want to talk about when it comes to how we communicate,
then I want to know that. I want to be all ears, because if we can do it and not lose efficiency, then, I want to make everybody feel like, you're contributing as you feel that you should be under the rules of the board. So I just share that with you.
So as the voice of the board, as an example with something like that, I mean, I wasn't here for that. So then you had the idea that, maybe we can combine.
I had talked to other board members in the past, because I'd been to a couple meetings.
I was in favor of it also. We
I was
discussed
too.
it.
That was my first
So
year.
then what you did, I'm just want to make sure I get this right.
Yeah.
You had discussions with not AJ, but the entire board about
Yeah.
this idea.
Because
So that's how you knew that you were the voice of the board, because you were talking to the whole board.
Yep.
And you knew how everybody felt.
Yeah, because that was an unusual situation that, it came up, and I'd been to some of the seminars and stuff, and I'd actually even talked to, at the time, Wyndham had contacted us before this happened, when Carol was still around. They had contacted us about meeting to see. So I went and met with the superintendent at the time, who used to work here. He was for it. Unfortunately, his board did not like it. But, we tried to save money for him. And I talked to another friend of mine who was a treasurer. His board did not like it, so he didn't submit even an application. But at that time, that was starting to go around. How do you save money for that? And I talked to even the ESC, and I said, why don't you present something to save money for all the schools? Everybody uses the same reporting system now. Back then, they didn't. Every school had theirs a little bit different. So we had a meeting out there, and I said, why don't you guys should contact, why don't you have like 6 or 8 and be all the treasurers for all the districts? You don't have to have a person in place. You need an assistant, at least to do the payroll, hand out the checks. But so I had been talking about that for quite a few years, actually, and finally got an opportunity when Carol said she was going to retire. I presented, I said, what do you, just in general, do you think we should look at it? And they go, yes. I didn't ask for a vote, because that would be against, that would be round robin type thing. So what do you guys think? Should we look at it? Just, and talk to the candidates when they came in, and we asked them flat out.
Could I ask one other question about this review process that we have? So it's like we get these forms and we get a little bit of background that we're, how we're supposed to fill these out. And I look at it kind of like a circle, right? We get these forms, we make our evaluations, we turn them in. Then you look at them and discuss with.
I have to sit down with each one of them individually, and I give them, like, there's 5 of us. So like they say, meets the standards, exceeds the standards, or meets performance. I say, you got 3 votes that said you exceeded, 2 votes, or 1 vote, and then that's what I do. And if anybody makes any comments, I just tell them, I have this comment, could you adjust this, could you do that? Areas of improvement, or sometimes they're just statements, I think they're doing a great job with this part of it. And it used to be a lot simpler. A couple years ago, Mr. Morton asked about, he wanted a new form. So him and Karen worked on that for months, and they came out, it's a lot more.
It's tied to the Ohio standard.
Yes, it's tied to the other
The other
one used to
was
be,
not.
it's a simple form. Do you think they're doing a good job or not?
So it's a circle. So it's like, okay, so then you read everything, you present everything to these.
Yep.
These 2 important people that were responsible
that's who
and
we're
were
supposed to
giving
hire.
input.
Yeah.
And then what happens after you talk to them about, hey, this was good, this was like,
If
then what?
If they have feedback, if they want me to present something back to the board, I will.
What if they don't?
If they don't, you mean if they
Well,
don't
like,
have anything for us?
like as an example, I mean, I'm just throwing this out here just as someone who's had a lot of employees in the past. It's like you do a review, you have, there might be an issue with
Yes.
performance of some sort.
Yes.
But since we're a board, how do we hear how things went? And how do we hear what the plan is to say, maybe correct a performance
Well,
issue?
if there is a corrective action needs to be taken, we bring it out to them. I tell you the truth, I haven't had one. And even when I was on the board before, I was an officer, I don't remember anybody having an issue with the super at the time.
Right, but I'm just saying, this is, let's
You're
say that
supposed to
there was.
present it, if you have an issue, you gotta bring it back to the board, and they gotta decide on what do you guys wanna do with
Okay.
this.
So I think if, to answer your question, what would happen is that if the board felt like a superintendent or treasurer needed a corrective action plan, you probably would tell your board president, hey, I think we need to have executive session and go in
Yeah.
and talk about employment personnel.
Yeah, do you
And
wanna
then the board would
discipline or
have that
do
discussion.
something?
So anytime you go into executive session, if you didn't want that employee in the room, you have the right to release them.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
And then the board could discuss, okay, we've detected these deficiencies. This is, what are we gonna do about it? How do we
Right.
put some formal, remedial plan in place to correct it so that we are seeing the progress that we would expect? That's kind of how that would happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when all of us have our critiques, that doesn't get shared in amongst ourselves?
No, that's your individual evaluation.
Uh-huh.
I relay it to them as a group, not
Right.
by name, just as a group. This is
It's
what the board is-
it's compiled.
Yeah. it's-
So all the
I don't
comments
give
go
him
on
the
one
individual
form,
ones,
all
I
the
make the
ratings go on.
And I'm just
one
trying to understand, I guess I can understand why, some people might not want their personal thoughts and feelings
Yeah.
telegraphed, but on the other hand, if we're a board and we need to be able to look at this like collectively, how do we do that if we can't be open about what,
That's up to
our
each individual
criticisms are?
board
I mean,
member, how they.
that's
So what are
right.
you asking for? Are you asking to see the final evaluation? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, or I'm just saying, I feel it's like there's some dysfunction there because if we're all deciding on how we're in charge of
Sure.
the employee's performance, and that's like a huge part of our job. If when it comes to evaluating, maybe there's something that I didn't find a problem, but somebody else on the board
Sure.
did. And then something should be done about it. How do
Yeah, you
I
don't
know
know.
that?
So then wouldn't you, if we're in executive session, that'd be concerns of and talking about employment, and we then as a group would bring that up if there's concerns?
Well, what I
I
was-
certainly would. I would be talking to Rusty. I'm like, I'm not happy with some of this. This is an issue for me. And then I would, with his guidance, probably would say executive session, and we could ask Brad
Yeah,
and
you don't
and
have to
Mr.
do that, you
Colorado
don't have to do
Lee.
that for evaluation, you can do that at
Anytime.
Yeah, anytime.
You
that
just
I
gotta
have
go, you gotta have an
concerns.
executive session for the right
Right.
reasons. Yeah.
Right, to
Uh,
discuss employment, not for.
Discipline of.
But I
Right.
think what we're talking about is a communication thing of that final compilation, no one sees it except the board president, and who brings it in, compiles it, and then reviews the evaluation performance with us.
Right.
Um,
And again, if I
And is
said,
that just is that just a policy thing? That's just the way it's always been
I don't
done? Or?
know. I don't know if it's a policy thing or
I mean, how
that's
does that
really
work?
that's written.
that was the way I was
Yeah.
taught. so
Yeah, I think it's
really don't know if
probably a
policy.
practice.
Yeah, it's past
But-
practice, definitely.
The possible remedy is that if you want to be in the know to see what the whole complete picture looks like, then that's something where you just scan and share out the evaluation to all the board members. So that you see, here was the treasurer's eval, here's what the final eval,
I mean,
and that's how you would know what everybody
My thing
did.
is, I don't care who, put it this way. The anonymity of saying, well, I have an opinion and it's this, and I don't want everybody else knowing that it was me. Okay, I understand that, but it's like, I don't really, as a board member, I don't really care where that came from. I just want the information. And, to me, I think that's valuable in, number one, understanding the collective mind of the board, and number two, understanding the big picture about what everybody feels, because there might be something there that I hadn't thought of. It's the same reason we communicate in concerns of the board, because there's, we're all bring something different to the table. So that's what I'm saying. I've never had a review process with a board where we aren't kind of open about the end part of it.
Listen, I think being a divergent thinker is a good thing.
Yeah.
And I can see as you guys are having this conversation, I'm here participating and listening, the idea of sharing out the final evaluation to everybody allows everybody to have access to that information that previously you don't. So then you can get that idea, like you just said, the collective mind of the board.
Yeah,
And so not everybody's seeing that. So I don't.
I've been here for 2
Yeah.
years. You've been working together for, I don't know,
Yeah,
12 years.
yeah.
You know each other from the community. I'm like, I don't, my feeling is I desire to have more, a sense of communication and a community with this board, and I feel like I am not,
Okay.
so.
You can reach out and ask.
Yeah, I'll share that. I mean, I'll
Okay,
make sure.
then
you-
can I have all the results of everybody's thoughts and feelings written down?
I have the compilation.
Yeah.
You leave me the final.
Yeah.
All I do is
And I will
copy
make
word
sure
for
that-
word. If anybody leaves a comment, I just copy it
Yeah.
word for word.
I have a plan on sending you a memo Friday, and I will make sure that those get scanned, and you will get the treasurer's evaluation and the superintendent's evaluation, the one composite, which is everybody's comments, everybody's ratings. So for example, as he said, if there was 3 meets expectations and 1 needs improvement and 1 exceeds expectation, it's gonna say 1, 3, 1. And that means of the 5 board members, there were 3 votes for this, 1 vote for that, 1 vote for the other.
And Brad's not here, so I'm just gonna use him as a guinea pig, but let's just say there was something that somebody felt there could be improvement on. So how would we, the board, be informed as to what actions were going to be taken to improve that, whatever function we're looking at of his job we wanted to see improvement on? How would we know what was being done or what the plan
Well, it
was?
would be us to see what we want done. You would have to go in executive session, and
Okay.
discuss that.
Okay,
We'd have to come as a group and
Yeah, as a group.
decide that that's something we want to change.
If you have something specific about,
so then we
like
just
for
say,
Brad's,
yeah, we would.
just call him and say, can you explain this to me?
Right, but I mean,
And then if you want to take board action, then I suggest, then you'd go in executive session. We as a board would discuss it.
right, and so I'd just say, hey, I think we should have an executive session to discuss A, B, C, D.
Personnel.
Well, it's gotta be
Discipline.
specific. There are specific reasons to go into executive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he puts them with the agenda every month.
So for example,
Uh-huh.
I don't have my legal hat on or expertise, but if
Right.
you were to look at a corrective action plan for an employee, you would legally be permitted to go into executive session for employee discipline.
Yeah,
Right, and I'm not saying,
Yeah.
and trust me, I'm just
That's what
like,
it would be.
I'm just like trying to understand the process, because I think,
Sure.
my feeling is that there might be some small processes that might, we might benefit from changing,
The only thing I would forewarn
But
you
I don't think
about-
to me, I don't think it's like you have to go into executive session to
yeah.
discuss that.
No. I think the thing you have to be cautious about is that you might have a situation, and I don't, it could be an action, it could be an employee, superintendent, treasurer evaluation, or whatever.
Mhm.
It's important to remember that one board member doesn't mean that the board acts on it, right? It is more about the collaboration and the conversation. And if the consensus of the board moved towards the will of the board, where the majority says, hey, we should be doing this, whether it's we're going to buy this, or we're going to, do this project, or we're going to spend this money, or we're going to ask for this corrective action plan, then it happens. But when things are expressed by just one board member, that this is what I'd want to see done, the power of the board, as I've always said, is not in the voice of one, it's in the collective voice. And that's always, in anything a board does, that's always important to remember.
yeah.
It's
I'd
the
say
collective
if
voice of the
If I
board.
did the
where power
evaluation
is.
and I had, like, the majority of them said, you need to work on that, or the last one. I can't remember. what it was.
Just whatever, just
Yeah.
some
If
random
it turned
thing.
out that was the last, everybody else, he didn't meet or exceeded, then maybe we needed to talk about that. We didn't have that. I
Right.
hadn't had that before, but if we did do that, that's when I would call executive sessions, hey, there's must be a problem if more than one person sees something else. So, maybe we should discuss that.
So I think it's a good start that we get you guys copies of that so everybody can see what
Yeah.
the collective mind of the board is. I like that phrase. And it's a
Yeah.
piece of information you have at your fingertips, and you know, you can get a feel for, are there glaring issues in those forms that we need to have further
And
conversation.
it's in my handwriting,
Yeah.
so hopefully, here we go.
But also,
Well, I
it's,
printed it.
it's kind of like, I look at it like if I'm trying to learn a sport and I'm just out there on my own, just trying to get better,
Mhm.
I might not get better at that until I go out and do that. I get on the ice with you and you give me one little tip that helps me, skate better. I wouldn't have done that if I didn't put myself in a position where I could be watching and listening to what you were doing. And that's kind of how I feel about here. It's like, I want to know, you might have a comment or a thought on something that I would have never thought of because of your experience. And if I get to read that, that helps me start to figure out how a vice president thinks, or another board member, or the president thinks, or, like, I want to know that. That should be, that's good information for someone like me that wants to learn things that I don't know. It's like, and that's how I do it. I jump in and start asking a bunch of
Well, it's
questions.
a start.
Yeah.
And-
You get
They're all
that.
being inclusive.
I think having
Yeah.
having trust in the other board members and the president is a good place to start too. It seems like some of our complaints can't come from not trusting them. And even in our open session where we had public participation last meeting,
Uh-huh.
a lot of them people seem to not trust the president and the superintendent. And they said a lot of unfounded things, a lot of things that weren't correct.
The public, are you talking about public?
The public, yeah.
Okay.
And I don't think we want to get drawn into that as a board of not trusting ourselves.
But shouldn't we be looking at those public comments since we've been
You do, but some
elected?
public comments, you don't really want to respond to all of those
You can't,
because
yeah, we listen to
it's,
them, we
it's a
recorded them.
chance for the
But I mean,
the
us
public to
together,
speak.
the collective
Yeah.
here,
Well,
together,
let
we
me-
should be
let-
discussing
yeah.
this thing.
And that's one of the reasons, for example, in the last memo I sent you, the week following that board meeting, you would have seen a comment in there about school consolidation.
Yeah.
Anybody see
Yeah.
that? Because that was a product of some of those public comments.
Yes.
That was also a product of my conversation following that meeting with one of our community members who used to teach here with us, who pointedly had a conversation with me about school consolidation and what my views were on it. And so I think there's an honest conversation to have about school consolidation. However, as I indicated to this community member, that's not something a superintendent alone drives. That's not born from me, because
That's the board.
that's the board.
So when do we talk
And
about
so,
Whenever you want.
whenever you want. So my comment to that community member was, my promise to you is I'm going to share your concerns with the board, because when you talk about school consolidation, it's got to be board driven. And that's why, for example, in my memo to you, I shared with you that there's a school-wide or district-wide directory of all board members. And if you feel compelled to talk to other board members about school consolidation, you are well within your rights to do that. You pick up the phone, you talk to other board members, hey, what's your feeling in the community that you serve? Okay, now, I know what my views are about school consolidation in terms of what's likely to happen, what's not likely to happen. Even the Tribune wrote about that in an editorial recently. And one of the things they even said was, well, we don't think that could really be a viable option, but schools can find ways to save money. And coincidentally, guess what they said? Schools ought to be sharing treasurers. So in that regard, I'd like to think that we're actually a leader in the county. We are actually at the forefront of trying to save our community $45,000, $50,000 a year. And then you see that being supported. Well, we've been doing it for 5, now going on 6 years, and the Tribune is now indicating that other districts ought to do it because they don't see consolidation as viable. You know, why isn't consolidation viable? Hey, do we want to give up our scarlet and gray colors and no longer be called the Vikings and be absorbed by another community? Probably not. We've already lived that once. Do other communities want to be absorbed by us? Probably not. Everybody's tied to their territory and their history.
Right.
And here's the other little known fact that people don't understand. When you get absorbed by another community, you absorb their tax rate. And so if you're a local community with a small district and you're in a community with a very low tax rate in the county and you merge with another district that has 6, 7 mills more than you, guess whose taxes all go up? There's a lot of barriers to that. But that's why that's not driven by a superintendent and a treasurer. It's driven by community members, leaders in the community, like board members coming together, like it happened with Braceville and Leavensburg or Warren Township schools in the late 60s that led to LaBrae in July of 1970. So that's an example where, we have some conversation. I talk to community members, and then I do what I say I'm going to do, which is all the board's going to hear about this, and you can guarantee that I'm going to share your concerns with them. What we do with it, that's up to you, because
Yeah,
that's above my pay grade when it
I've
comes
used
to pushing
that list of all the board members, some of them I knew from personal experience. We went to school at the same time. They're in a different district, but you make friends outside. What is your board doing about that? What do you think about this in the community? What is your community's feeling? Some of them say, I think we could do it, but I don't think our community as a whole would do it. I make that comment. When I first started, the state came in and asked for us to meet with Southington they would build us a whole school without any taxpayer. They would build it for us. If Southington would meet with us and we would, consolidate. Southington board did not agree. They wouldn't even come to a meeting. That was how they felt at the time. And that was that's before they got their new school. So, there's a sense of, you want to protect your borders, I guess you could say, or keep your community.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy thing. I mean, it's worth discussing, but you need to talk to the other board. Like you said, it's not the superintendent that's going to drive it. It's the board that's going to have to do it, because we're supposed to have the pulse of the community, listen to what they say, and if they don't agree with it, they're not going to want us to vote for it.
What do other people in the community say that you guys are so
So they were
connected?
against it.
Everybody.
I still
Everybody's
have,
against it.
I still run into people that
Are
are
upset
still not
about
happy that
Braceville.
we merged with Braceville.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's still out there too.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, on both sides,
Yeah.
on both sides, there's Leavensburg and Braceville. I get,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
got
Pretty
both
upset. And
ends.
why the school wasn't in Braceville. Why is it where it's at?
Oh,
Yeah.
There was a lot.
So, you're not gonna make everybody happy no matter
Right.
what you do. But I mean, like AJ said, it's worth a conversation. So if you talk to other board members, just say, what do you think? You may find you're against a brick wall, but it's something you might have to look into it more. I still feel they're doing this property tax thing. It may be a way to kind of force schools to relook at how everything's progressed. I think the state made a mistake when they started paying for schools for some of these smaller districts. But, some of those, they very private. They want to keep what they got.
And I can't blame them.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. But, some of the districts, the smaller ones around, they don't care. They like what they're doing.
There's an old saying about necessity is the mother of all invention.
Yeah.
And that generally is true probably when it comes to school consolidation.
But that, it's always, when you meet anything, just start talking. See what
And
they
we'll,
do.
and we'll have an updated directory soon. As
Yeah.
soon as the ESC puts one out, we'll make sure you guys have that in your board folder.
Okay, anybody got anything else? I'll get you out of here. Karen's got a lot of work to do these.
Yeah,
She writes a lot more.
darn it. We had
Mr. Panic,
All right,
to write.
I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
a second.
Motion by Mr. Gibson, second by Mrs. Shutt. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.